It's time for CBJ in 30, presented by Telhio Credit Union. Find us on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play Music, YouTube, and TuneIn. The easiest thing to do is tell Alexa or Siri to play CBJ in 30. Here's your host, Bob McElligott.
McElligott turned it over. In front was Dubois, and he got stick-checked before he could get a shot away. Now the Rangers come back into 3-on-2. McElligott comes in, puts it in front. There's a shot. Save made by Kivlenieks. Big save there to keep this a 1-0 game.
Yeah, honestly, I still can't believe it. You know what happened. I'll probably realize it tomorrow or something, but, you know, it's always been a dream. And I know it's obviously hard to even get a game, and plus to win it, the first game you ever played. Like I said, I'm just really happy I won the game.
Matiss Kivlenieks gets the starting goal for the Blue Jackets last night at the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden, against the New York Rangers. And Kivlenieks wins the game in goal 2-1. The Blue Jackets with a huge victory. And yes, as the song says, if he can make it there, he can make it anywhere. New York, New York. Welcome to CBJ in 30, presented by Telhio Credit Union. I'm Bob McElligott. Well, the Blue Jackets were very impressive last night. They were impressive in the way that they fought and they battled and they won the game. That was the most impressive thing, the way that they, as Torch says, went about their business. And Oliver Bjorkstrand comes back to the lineup. Somebody asked him pregame yesterday if he would like to have a return like Cam Atkinson did, where, you know, Atkinson had a couple of points in his first game back. Then in his second game back, he had 2 goals. And Oliver said, well, yeah, of course. I would love to have that kind of a return. Well, he did. He had both Blue Jackets goals. They both came in the third period. They were both very similar, where he had time to pick his spot, take his shot, and he buried both of them. And that's what got the Blue Jackets the win. The final goal was scored with 26 and a half seconds left in regulation time. Impressive. It just looked like one of those nights where the Blue Jackets didn't have a lot of energy. It looked like a back-to-back situation. They just played the previous night at home against New Jersey. We all know that the score of that one looked great, but the performance really didn't look great. But they came into New York. I thought it took a while to get going. I thought they defended really well in the first period, and they were really, you know, helping out their young goaltender. And let me say this, and I'm going to say this, and I'm going to rub some of you the wrong way when I say it, and I don't want you – I just want you to listen. I just want you to listen, and then you can think whatever you want. But when the game was over last night, I thought about watching Matiss Kivlenieks play, and I compared it to the night before. Now listen, Elvis Merzlikins is dynamic, and he is athletic, and he makes everything exciting. There's no doubt about that. But it was nice last night just to watch a goalie be relaxed in his crease, just make the saves that he was supposed to make, once in a while make a big save, but just he was calm. He was really calm. For a kid that was making his NHL debut in that building, he was about as calm as you could possibly be. That's how he looked when he played. And I just thought it was nice. And I'm not ripping on Elvis, but you can see the difference. Look, they're both Latvian goaltenders. They're both European goaltenders. But Kivlenieks came over here as a young man, played in the USHL. He wanted to get acclimated to the North American game early. So he came over and he played in the USHL. And then he went right to Cleveland. And he has spent the last 2+ years in either Cleveland or in the East Coast Hockey League, ECHL. He's worked on it. He's paid his dues in the minor leagues. And that's the difference between the scrambling and the calmness, I think. And look, Elvis has made the adjustments, and his timing is better and all that stuff. And he had 3 shutouts. 3 shutouts. He's going to be one of the stars of the week. There's no doubt about it. When the stars of the week come out, he's going to be one of them. There's no way that he can't be one of them, right? He has 2 shutouts since, he had one Tuesday and he had one on Friday. He's got to be one of the stars of the week. And he's done great. But, I was glad to see that Kivlenieks got the opportunity last night. And I'm one, and I've said this on this show, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I might say it before the show's over, too. People are talking about when's the backup going to get in the net, and now when's the third guy going to get in the net. Heck, the next thing you'll want Veini Vivalainen to come up and make a start before it's all said and done. And you know why you'll want that? Because everybody's winning. Everybody's winning. But I've said before, let's quit worrying about when the backup's going to play. But I'm so glad that he got a chance to play. I'm so glad that he made that debut and had the success that he had. It was fun to watch. It's another great piece of the story that is just continuing to develop this year for the Blue Jackets. And it seems like right now they can do no wrong. Now, that could all blow up on Wednesday when Winnipeg comes to town, but it might not. I don't think that it will. I think the worst thing that could happen for this team possibly is to have a week off, which is coming with the All-Star break and the 5-day break. They're getting the time off. There's nothing anybody can do about that. And you can say, yeah, recharge the batteries. Sure, they need it. But, man, when you have momentum, you want to keep playing. But anyway, let's forget about that. I'm glad that he got that chance last night, and I'm glad that he won the game. Now, let's move on to some bigger and better things, if you will, because this is your portion of the show. It's Monday. It's time for the Monday Mailbag. And let me tell you something. There is something different going on this week. There's something really different going on this week. Now remember, for as long as I've been doing this feature, which has been a couple of years, all of the questions that I have gotten have come to me via Twitter. All of them. You've tweeted me the question. I've read it. I've read your question. I've given my answer. That's how we've done it forever. But we started to make a change right here after the first of the year where I gave you the opportunity to start sending me a voice memo by using your phone and say your name and where you're from and ask your question. And we've had a couple. We are going to break new ground today because that format is going to be the majority of this show. I am very happy to say. Very happy to say. Because I want you to be involved. I want your voice to be on it. I want you to feel like a part of it. Yeah, and when I read your question, yeah, that's nice, but you asked the question. So that's going to be a big part of the show. I have, I think, 2 Twitter questions. That's it. So we're we're going into a new frontier here, and I love it. So thanks. And if you don't know how to do the voice memo, just you can record on your phone. Just record your question. Again, your name, where you're from, and your question. Email it to me, BobbyMac@BlueJackets.com, BobbyMac @BlueJackets.com. It's really easy. I'm going to show you how easy it is in just a moment when I get to some of your questions. But first, you got to pay the bills. That's the situation you're in, right? Every day you got to pay the bills. And maybe as you've been paying the bills, maybe you've been racking up bills, and maybe you have incurred some debt, and maybe you would like to consolidate that debt. Well, I'll tell you who can help you with that is Telhio Credit Union. That's right. They've got a personal loan that can help you to get cash for a big purchase, maybe to get away this winter, go somewhere where it's warmer. Maybe you just want to pay off high-interest credit cards and consolidate that debt. Get the cash you need with that personal loan from Telhio. The rates are lower than most credit cards, so it's worth checking out. And you can do that. You can check it out just by going online right now or a little bit later after you're done with this show. Actually, that's probably my preference, but again, they're paying the bills. Telhio.org is the website. First of all, find out about a credit union. Why should you join a credit union? What kind of benefits are you going to get? And then look at the different things like the personal loan and see if it is something that fits you and your needs. If you don't know where to find what you're looking for, there's a live chat option available on the right-hand side of the screen. When you're on their website, it's available during business hours. You can take advantage of that. Or you could just stop by any local Telhio Credit Union office. Telhio Credit Union is open to everyone in central and southwestern Ohio. They're federally insured by NCUA. All right. Now, as promised, it is time for your questions on the Monday Mailbag edition of CBJ and 30 presented by Telhio Credit Union. Did that sound professional enough? I hope so. All right, here's the first question.
Hey, Bob, how's it going? This is Cameron Maynard from Belford, Kentucky. Obviously, Elvis Merzlikins is on a roll right now. He's had shutouts in 3 of his last 4 contests. Korpisalo's been out since late December. But, once he gets back, once he gets healthy again, I think there's going to be a major goalie controversy. So here's my question. Do you stick with Elvis? Do you stick with the hot hand, or do you go back to Korpisalo? I think that's going to be very interesting to see as time goes on this season. I really think you should stick with Elvis. I think you should stick with the hot hand, as somebody told me recently. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Korpisalo. I just wanted to get your thoughts and look forward to you answering my question. Thanks, Bob.
Well, Cameron, thank you very much. That is a good question, and over the next couple of weeks, we're going to get the answer to it. But I can tell you this. When Joonas Korpisalo comes back, and John Tortorella said this before the game last night, he was making it a point to some New York reporters that Joonas Korpisalo won the starting job on this team. We all agree on that. He won the job. The way he was playing, he was selected to go to the NHL All-Star game. Then he got injured, and he didn't get to go. They don't just throw those accolades out at you. You've got to earn them, and he did. So let's remember that when he comes back, you are going to be putting literally an all-star goaltender back into your lineup, okay? Now, with all of that being said, he's not going to jump right back in and play every game, and I'll tell you why. With the injury that he suffered to his knee, they are going to ease him back in because there is now no need to have him come back in and play 4 out of 5 games, 5 out of 7 games, whatever. There's no need for that. Elvis has proven that he can play and he can win. So that allows you to ease Korpisalo back into it. And by the way, I think if there's a goaltender controversy, I think that is terrific. Absolutely terrific. Because they will push one another. Let's be honest about this, okay? In past years, you knew who the starter was and you knew who the backup was. And there was that little bit of time last year where Torts was putting Korpisalo in and saying, we have to find out what we have in him because we don't know if Bobrovsky's going to stay or not. But whatever. You knew who the starter was. And there wasn't really competition. Didn't matter how well the other guy played. You weren't going to bump the starter. But now, either guy can be the starter on any night. So now they're going to push each other. I think it's going to be good for this team. I think ultimately it's going to be good for them as well. I'm not worried about it. I'm really not. Again, it's still in the distance a little bit, but all I know is if Korpisalo comes back and plays at the level that he was playing at when he got hurt, and Elvis continues to play at the level that he is playing at, you are going to have 2 rested goaltenders come playoff time. And that's a key. That is an absolutely huge key to have guys that have rested. And they're not killing themselves just to get to the playoffs. They're not so exhausted by the time they get there that they can't perform as well as they need to. So you could call it a controversy. I call it a blessing. I think it's going to be a blessing. But it still will be fun to watch. You're right. Next question.
Hi, Bob. This is Greg Senko in Cleveland. Really appreciated your interview the other day with J.F. LeBay. There was a point of concern that came up during that conversation, though, which is my question for this week's Monday Mailbag. And that was when he brought up Seattle and the upcoming expansion franchise there. So I figured in about a year and a half, we're going to have the expansion draft. And with that being said, each team's only allowed to protect one goalie. Who does Columbus protect? It's kind of like asking which of your children do you love more, which I know is a totally unfair question, but it's a reality that the Blue Jackets are going to have to face. So I would have to think that maybe Korpisalo is the odd man out, because why else would you bring Merzlikins over and groom him? But you never know. So wanted to get your thoughts on that. Thank you very much.
All right, Greg, so you're going to go way out there. The heck with who's going to play in 2 or 3 weeks from now. Who's going to be here after the expansion draft? And, yeah, okay, so there will be another expansion draft, and, yeah, you can protect one goalie, and who's it going to be and who's it not going to be. Look, whoever's playing better at the time, whoever you feel is going to give you the best chance to win on a nightly basis is the guy that you're going to protect. And also keep something in mind, okay? keep this in mind. There are 31 teams, and there are 2 goalies on a team. Maybe they take 3. Who knows? My point here is that they're not necessarily going to take one of your guys. They might take somebody else's guy. Now, you're going to come back and say to me, yeah, but if these guys are as good as we're seeing right now, they're definitely taking whoever the Blue Jackets don't protect. Okay, whatever. But, that is so far out for me, to be honest, Greg. I'm not discounting your question. It's a good question. But it's just so far out, and look, you really don't know what you have in either one of these guys. That's the thing. Like, we're all excited, and they're both playing well, but it's a small sample size. It really is. So what do you really have in either one of them? You have a better idea with Korpisalo than you do with Merzlikins, but you're still not 100% sure. And you're going to have time to figure that out. And whoever is the better goaltender at the time, whoever you think is going to give you the better chance to win, is who you're going to protect. I think that is hands down simple, quite frankly. Let's not worry about losing Elvis before Elvis even gets through one full season in the National Hockey League. And again, I understand. I understand the question. I really do. It's just, who would have thought we would have been having this discussion, right? Who would have thought? I didn't think. I watched Elvis, and I saw him struggle, and, all of a sudden he's playing the opposite of how he was playing. We saw good flashes, but now we're seeing a lot of good things. So that's the point, though. You never know. I mean, the wheels can fall off the cart just as quickly as you put them back on, too. So it's still a small sample size. But, at some point we'll get to that where decisions have to be made, and then we'll hear about the William Karlsson thing over and over and over again when that time comes. All right, let's get another question.
Hey, Bob, this is Jonathan from Corbin, Kentucky. I want to say first of all that I'm enjoying this season, listening to your broadcasts on the radio, and thank you for the work you're doing on the podcast to keep us connected to the Blue Jackets each week. And I just have a question about when the Blue Jackets are on the road, and how does it feel as a broadcaster when they score a big goal and maybe a big-time moment, and the arena goes quiet, and you go, and he takes a shot, and he scores! What's it like to be maybe the only one in the arena making any noise, and to bring the excitement through the radio? Do you feel odd? Do you feel embarrassed at all? Or how do you feel? And again, thanks for all you do, and look forward to hearing your answer.
Well, Jonathan, 2 things. Thank you for the question, and thank you for sending me your play-by-play audition, because it was really good. So I do appreciate it. Before I answer Jonathan's question, can I just say, if you listen to the last 3 people, I think it's 2 from Kentucky, 1 from Cleveland. I think that's terrific. I think that's great, because I think the footprint of the Blue Jackets is so much bigger than we realize. It's not just Columbus and the greater Columbus area. I mean, it's all over, and this proves that. It reminds us of that. It doesn't prove it. It reminds us. So I know you guys are out there everywhere, and it is great to have you aboard. Now, let's answer Jonathan's question. I'll answer his question. What I'm talking about, like, you can answer the question. You're not sitting there in those arenas making that call. But I'm glad you did ask me this, Jonathan, because I hadn't thought about it until you asked me. I've just become so used to making these calls. Now, I'm up in a booth, and I'm not really around other people, so, it's that you can do whatever you want to there. You don't feel self-conscious or anything when it comes to that. But it's actually a great feeling. It's a great feeling to hear nothing in that building when your team scores. You're excited. You know what just happened. When Bjorkstrand scored that second goal last night, the air was left out of there. You might as well have taken the roof off and let all the air out. It was done. They were done. They were going to the exits, and it was a great feeling. And I love that feeling. I've become used to it, so I don't think about it as much. Last year in Tampa, in the first game of the playoff series with the Lightning, they had network radio there, so I got kicked out of my booth. I was sitting on press row with other reporters, which I hate because other people are around. They can hear whatever I'm saying, and that might sound silly to you for me to worry about everybody hearing what I'm saying. But out in the open like that with the reporters, I'm not a fan. Anyway, the stands were right there in front of me, and there were people. They gave out some kind of noisemaker, and every time they put it up and they made noise with it, it was kind of right there in my face type thing. And I just thought, this is going to be miserable. And then the way that game started, it was miserable. But, oh, my goodness, when the Blue Jackets came back and won that game, and the people, then the fans were right there in front of me. I knew they could hear every word I was saying, and then I was loving it. And then I chose my words carefully to cut right to the heart of them. That's what I did. I'm not a nice guy, especially not in the playoffs, believe me. So it is, it's kind of a different feeling. It's certainly the opposite from being at home. Although there are some places that you go and you can hear the Blue Jackets fans. In Vegas, quite frankly, you could hear the Blue Jackets fans cheering when the Blue Jackets scored in that game. So it's fun, Jonathan. It's fun. The short answer to your question is, I love being the only one loud and excited when there are about 20,000 people that are ticked off. All right, on to the next question.
Hey, Bobby. Love listening to the Monday Mailbag at work. Got a question about Sunday night's game. Late in the second period, we had a long stretch of uninterrupted play along with one icing call. As a result, there was no 6-minute TV timeout. So I'm curious, what does that mean for the network and the advertisers? Thanks. Go Jackets.
All right, now that's a good question, a little bit out of the box, and that was from Brian, and I know that because Brian emailed it to me. But see, Brian forgot about the format. So this isn't me yelling at you, Brian. This is just a reminder, okay? Name, where you're from, then the question. But that's okay. We'll all get used to this. We'll all get used to it as we go along. What happens when you don't have the timeout at the 6-minute mark? Well, then the television has to make up that break somewhere. What we do on the radio is we'll take an extra break before we start the post-game show. I'm not sure exactly how they handle it in TV, but listen, your question is, what happens? It's nothing good, right? Because those are paid advertisements. You want them on while the game is going on. But once it gets down to, I think it's 3 minutes. I should know this, I guess. But in the first and second periods, they'll take it. They'll still take that break. They took one with under a minute, and I thought they weren't supposed to do that, but they took one with under a minute the other night. But in the third period, I think it's 3 minutes. Once it gets below 3 minutes, they don't want to take the time out. They want to keep going. So they're more concerned about the game than the advertising revenue at that point in time, which is kind of strange in pro sports, isn't it? But they make up the break somewhere, but it is not ideal. It's certainly not ideal, and I'm sure the TV networks don't like it. I forget about it sometimes. Because the period will be going on, and all of a sudden we'll get to the end, and I'll be ready to do something, and they'll say to me, we have a break to make up. Oh, geez, no, I forgot about that. Because usually the game is good when that stuff's going on, right? Because it's extended play, it's not stopping, and it's going back and forth. So, they make it up somehow, but I don't know the ins and outs on the TV side as far as, with the national networks and how that works with their deals or whatever. I don't know that. If I did, I'd tell you. But, on radio, we just make it up. We just make up. I know what you're thinking. You just make it up on radio all the time, don't you? No. But we just make up the break. We'll just take an extra break so that we get it in and everything is paid for. All right, so those are all the voice questions that I believe I have. And that was excellent. That was awesome. Thank you again. Great stuff. Email those to me, bobbymac@bluejackets.com. Now let me get to another couple of questions before we run out of time on this week's show. On Twitter, @BobbyMacSports. Actually, people just start DMing me with these things, just like Ed. Ed said, is there an NHL player rule regulation that limits the color of player skates? Would it be over the top for Elvis to wear blue suede footwear on the ice? Ed, that would completely be over the top. It would drip of irony. It would be funny, but it would be over the top. Now, I don't know. I mean, the skates come in black, right? The Oakland Seals used to wear white skates once upon a time. And I think they had to paint those, and they made them heavy. So that's not happening. But nobody's going to be wearing any blue suede skates anytime soon. But I like where your head's at. Here's a question from Mike. He says, with the recent success of the call-ups, do you put this success more on Yarmo and the scouting staff, more on them knocking it out of the park, or more on the continued proven greatness of Torts? Love to see the Blue Jackets outperforming everyone's expectations, and love the show. Well, thank you, Mike. I think you have to give credit to everybody, but I will say that the scouts should get a little bit more of the credit. Don't forget, these are the guys that go out and beat the bushes. Actually, they're not beating bushes. They're driving around in the dead of winter most times across the plains of North America looking for that player that's going to make your organization better. And sometimes that player is not the standout, flashy guy. I mean, look, the European scouts found Jacob Lilia. Jacob Lilia is really holding down a very important key role on this team right now. Playing on that fourth line, being responsible defensively, being able to give you good quality minutes late in a tight game. He's doing that. He a bit of an older guy, but they found him. They signed him. Great work. The scouts do so much that goes unnoticed until you get a situation like the Blue Jackets have. Now, after the scouts, the general manager has to trust the scouts, goes and watches the player himself just to back up what he's told is true in his mind. So he gets credit for having the faith and listening to the people that he has hired and then eventually signing the player. And then it gets to the coach. And John Tortorella has done a good job with this team. I think he's done a great job with this team, to be honest with you. But to me, that's the order. It starts with the scouts. And believe me, the difference between scouts and coaches is so funny because every scout thinks that every guy they recommended should be able to play in the National Hockey League. And every coach thinks that he's been given 2 or 3 guys that have no chance of ever playing in the National Hockey League, or they shouldn't be playing in the National Hockey League. It is all a back and forth between scouts and coaches. With scouts, it's the coach isn't using him in the right role. He's not giving him enough minutes. And the coach is saying, what did they ever see in this guy? For crying out loud, how can he be in this league? So it's funny, the back and forth and go between with those two parties. But, John Tortorella has praised the Blue Jacket scouts here. He did it again yesterday. They deserve to get praised. They've done a really nice job. And, well, you know what? I said that it goes scouts, then GM. But the GM is hiring the scouts. He's picking the head of amateur scouting, the head of pro scouting, and approving their hires. So maybe I should give the GM a little bit more credit because if he doesn't hire those scouts, you don't find those players anyway. Here's an email I got from Mike. And Mike says, did the NHL emphasize referees looking at face-off positions? It seems like after the Christmas break, they're making sure players are outside of the circle. And also, are they taking longer to drop the puck? Well, the guys are supposed to be outside the circle anyway. And I think when you get to the midway point of the season, I don't know if they actually talk to them and come in and have a meeting with them or send them an email or whatever they do, but I think there gets to be a point where you're doing a little bit of a reset, right? Everybody's gotten lax over the first half of the season. You started like enforcing everything, making sure everything was, the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted, and now everybody's gotten a little bit lazy on it. So then you go back and you just kind of reset it mid-season, I think. Again, I don't know if it's a memo. I don't know if it's coming down from the league or if it's just guys doing it on their own. And as far as just taking long to drop the puck, I don't know what's going on in there half the time. It's like, are they conversing? Are they, talking about the horoscope they read in the morning? I don't know. Yeah, it seems like sometimes it takes them a long time to drop it. But I think what you're seeing and, forcibly making sure the players are outside the circle, that is what the rule is, so I think they're just trying to button it up a little bit and reinforce that. All right, I hope I've gotten to everything this week. If I missed anything, and if it was yours, I apologize. These emails come in, they get mixed up with my other emails. Maybe I should make a different email address, but I'm not going to do that right now. We're going to see how this continues on. If it gets to the point where I've got, 20 of these things coming in every week, then we're going to do something different. And I hope it gets to that point. This was a great start. This was a great start in going that direction. Thank you for sending me the questions. Again, I love having you on the show. It doesn't have to be all about me. Sure it does. No, I'm kidding. It doesn't have to be all about me. It shouldn't be all about me. It's your team. It's your show. So glad to have you sending in your questions. Again, get a voice memo on your phone. You could do that. Record your question. Name, location, question. Really simple. And you heard how simple it was here today. So thank you once again. And that's going to wrap it up. Blue Jackets are back in action on Wednesday. They take on the Winnipeg Jets at Nationwide Arena, and then they're going to be off until the beginning of February because they've got the All-Star break, they've got their 5-day break, and they're going to try to go into this All-Star break with a 6-game winning streak. They can do that if they can pick up the 2 points at home on Wednesday against the Winnipeg Jets. That'll do it for today's Monday Mailbag edition of CBJ in 30, presented by Telhio Credit Union. I'm Bob McElligott saying so long.